to turn off your phone, eh, guys? That would be a funny interruption.
I'm gonna call you during yours.
Vicky's already doing this. She has your number.
Pretty sure I turned it off earlier.
Worth the double check, eh?
Bill, are you going to be standing?
Yes, I will.
Silent from vibrate so I don't kick anybody.
Hi, neighbor. Hey, how are you doing? Good. I
Hello.
don't think I'll get anything worse than what I got at your place. Won't be any tougher questions than what I had at your place.
All right.
Did he ask you the budget one?
Okay, we'll get started. All right. Thank you all for attending and welcome to the library. My name is Dr. Richard Togman, CEO of the Thunder Bay Public Library. The library holds a sacred place in our community. It is one of the few places where everyone, regardless of age, income, background, ethnicity, or orientation, can come together to engage with their neighbors. The library exists to share knowledge and understanding and to help build community. Libraries make our neighborhoods strong. Because of this unique place we hold and the special relationship we have with residents, the library is the perfect place to hold election events. One of our fundamental rights as citizens is the right to vote, and voting necessitates being informed. What better place to learn what each and every candidate for local office stands for than at your neighborhood public library? As a nonpartisan organization run independently from the city, we are honored to be able to fulfill this essential role, that of helping to educate and inform the public and provide a neutral platform where all candidates can share their vision for our great city. We're so happy you could join us tonight this evening while we check out the Northwood and McKellar candidates. To prepare this event, we reached out and asked the community what questions they wanted the candidates to answer. From this list, we boiled it down to a set of diverse questions that span the range of issues that a city councilor will likely have to address over the course of their term. To ensure transparency and equity, we provided this list of questions to candidates in advance so they had time to think carefully and craft their responses in a thoughtful and meaningful manner. The question and answer portion of this event is being live streamed and will also appear on our YouTube channel by viewing for those who could not attend. Now, before we begin our formal agenda, the Thunder Bay Public Library would like to pay respect and acknowledge our local Indigenous authorities. We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians and stewards of Fort William First Nation within the Robinson Superior Treaty of 1850 and all of the sacred Anishinaabe grandmothers, grandfathers, elders, youth, and members who have come before us and have carefully guarded the land and all that it provides. We also acknowledge the contributions of our Métis people. TBPL is committed to working with and understanding the history that has brought us to reside on this land and acknowledge our responsibilities as treaty partners to provide access, accessibility, and assistance to anyone wishing to use library services or spaces. Now, the logistics for tonight will go as follows. All the candidates were invited to participate, and gladly all of them are here. As I mentioned previously, the questions that will be asked of the candidates came from library patrons and the community at large. The question list was distributed to candidates in advance so they could prepare and be informed, and there are no surprises or trick questions. While the candidates know the question list, they don't know which question will be asked of which candidate. Each candidate will get asked a question from the list at random to ensure fairness and a lack of bias. Each candidate will have a maximum of 2 minutes to answer the question. After a 15-second grace period, we will interrupt the candidate if they continue to speak. For your convenience, there's a screen at the back with a countdown clock for timing. Right? The green light will mean that you're in your first minute, the yellow light will light up during your second minute, and the red light shines when your time is up. There'll be 3 rounds of questions, with each candidate being asked 1 question per round. Now, first, let me personally welcome the Northwood candidates. So, from left to right, we have Bill Dell, Saeed Kabir, Chris Crumples, Mike Meyer, and Dominic Pasqualino.
It's Mar.
Meyer. Thanks, Mike. It takes a lot of courage to run for council, and I congratulate you for stepping forward to share your vision with the community with us tonight. Now, we're going to give each candidate the opportunity to introduce themselves, to highlight their platform and goals. You have 60 seconds for introduction, and after everyone has introduced themselves, we'll be followed with the Q&A. So, Bill, if you'd like to begin, your 60 seconds.
Hi, I'm Bill Dell. We have 547 people on the Sunshine List in Thunder Bay. This costs us $83 million a year. Sudbury has 540 on the list with $67 million costs. Sudbury has 166,000 people. We have 110. Sudbury's area is 8 times larger than Thunder Bay. Sudbury's operational costs are just about half of Thunder Bay's costs. On my third council meeting in November, I will put up my hand and say, Mr. Chair, I have a motion. My motion is that we direct Mr. Norm Gale to reduce the city budget by 20% by March 5th, 2023. Reduce the budget and not reduce services to the public. The chair will then ask, is there a seconder to the motion? Thank you, Councillor Judge. This will be the first motion to fix our city. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bill. Said.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Said Kabir, and I'm running for the City Councilor for Northwood. I worked for the Italian Hall as a general manager at the Port Arthur, and also I did my master's from the Lakehead University. So the reason I'm running is it's clear that the system that we have in our city is not working. The crime rates have gone up. The people are still sleeping on the streets, and the money that our tax money, is not being used properly in the city. And I have a job and I have a family, I'm raising my kids, but still I decided to step in because I think that it's about time that the city is managing the finances and solving the issues that we have. And we cannot have the same strategy, the same policy to solve these issues. We have been trying for 10 years, last 8 years, 2 elections, so many new candidates, so many promises, but what we get at this point? We get nothing. We are just falling behind. The crime rates are increasing. So now I feel like that we have to come up with a new strategy, and we need to come up with some policy that works for everybody. And I have expertise in finances, and I have traveled several countries in the world, and I know that the cities are adopting new technologies, new policies to solve those problems. And that's the only option for Thunder Bay. We have to come up with new vision. We have to come up with new solution. We cannot stick with the old plan. We cannot stick with the old policies. We cannot stick with the old structures that we have. We have to bring something new to the table. And that's why I am, as your representative, here today to bring in the new vision for Northwood, to build the future, to build a city for the future. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Said. Chris.
Good evening. My name is Chris Crumples, and one of the reasons that I wanted to run is I ran last time at large, and I learned a lot about the city, and I learned a lot. I spent a lot of time speaking at the doors, and I found that even now, I started door knocking back in July, and I realized that there's a lot of things that, even the things that my original thing was I wanted to do a wants needs analysis so we can see where we're spending our money and involve the people on what we need versus what we want and see how we properly spend our money. We're stewards of your money. You were as elected officials, we need to be accountable to you. Now, I come to this meeting to this position with a little bit of experience. So I have 3 diplomas from Confederation College in the business programs. I currently teach there as faculty as well. Part-time, my full-time role is I work in a marketing company, and we deal a lot with First Nations. So I've learned a lot about the First Nations over the last 4 years. I've learned a lot about our city and our community. Northwood is in the heart of Thunder Bay, which is in the heart of Canada, or the center of Canada. And it's a lot of neat family communities within the community. And it seems like every crescent's a community, and we need to speak up. We need to have people not afraid to come and talk. Safer neighborhoods. Maybe we need to spend more time doing events at community parks, not just at the major parks, but at the community parks, because if people come out with their neighbors and the more friendly it gets, the more people know each other again, especially coming out of the pandemic, it's going to get safer because there's going to be people out there. And we're also going to be able to use what's there. Using your money's there to have a park, but if there's nothing for the kids to do in the park, what are we going to do there? If for seniors walking, if we don't get the sidewalks fixed, sidewalks, curbs, roads, I've talked to people that have been in houses for over 50 years and they haven't seen a resurfacing of their road. That's crazy. And again, I don't want to make promises because I'm not a fan of breaking them, but I will tell you, I will listen and I will answer. if I can't answer you within one day, I should at least be able to answer you and acknowledge that you've contacted me and say that I'm gonna be working on something, or I'm talking to somebody, or here's what the update is. So you're not sitting in limbo wondering what's happening. That's important from my understandings at the doors. And for it, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight in advance. Thank the library for putting this on. Thank those that are also running in other areas that have come to sit today as well. It's important that we all stick together, and doesn't end here, regardless of whether some of us aren't going to get in and what have you. We still have a duty to still stick together and still move the ball forward.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mike.
Thanks. Hey everybody, I'm Mike Marr. I just left a successful law practice at Bizet and Partners, and now I'm teaching young, sharp lawyers how to be ethical and organized, and that's at Lakehead University. I grew up on Churchill with my mom, who's joining us in our front row, and I've been a part of the neighborhood. When I came back from law school, I briefly lived in Port Arthur, but was drawn back to Northwood, and I rented on Churchill, and now I live with my partner Vicky on Victoria Avenue, and I love Northwood. You can't match the kind of people that you see on the trails and the sort of everybody's waving and saying hi, and I think that it happens in Northwood more than anywhere else. Where else do you have a neighborhood that I've got to make sure that I wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, because if I don't, one of my neighbors is going to shovel my driveway first. The community in Northwood is incredible, and I know I'm obviously preaching to the choir about that one. But like, that's why I'm so upset. And that's why I've been driven to come to the table and to ask for your vote, because it's atrocious, the level of cowardice that we've seen from the city dealing with pinhole leaks that's upending people's lives. Middle of the night, pipes burst open, you have no idea what's going on, and what's worse is, like, this is all happening at your mom's house, and you're worried about what you're gonna do for her. The city doesn't have a shred, not even a direction on how to turn off your water, never mind any kind of guidance on how to deal with pinhole leaks. And I think just a little bit of communication in that way would go very far.
All right. Thank you, Mike. All right, Dominic.
Hello, thank you for coming here tonight, and thank you for putting on this event. I'm Dominic Pasqualino. People know me from being the president of Unifor Local 1075 for the last 11 years. I've worked there for 35 years, and I've worked for 7 years before that in the Woodlands. My top issues are simple. I want people to be able to go to work, be able to make a living wage, raise a family, pay their bills in a safe city with solid infrastructure, and we also have to remember to take care of the less fortunate. I know that we need to realize the problems where we are, but not to become overwhelmed with the problems that we have. We have to recognize them, but we have to look to the future and have our goals, and we have to work our ways to get them. Some of those goals aren't going to be solved in a day, but we can solve them as long as we stay focused on achieving our goals. So I'm here. I've been working with the plant for many years. My father worked in the plant for 38 years, from 1951 to 1989. So there's been a lot of things that have gone through the plant. It's been certainly had its dark days, and sometimes I feel the city is in some dark days now, but I really believe that we can get those boom years back in, and we can work together on that.
All right, thank you, Dominic. All right, so before we begin, I just want to remind all of the candidates that we are also live streaming and recording this, so if you can talk as directly into the microphone loudly, that would be helpful for people at home. All right, so we're going to kick off with the Q&A period. If I can get a little audience participation. So would you mind picking a number between 1 and 10? 5, all right. So we'll be starting with question 5 on the list. All right, the first question goes to Bill. So Bill, Indigenous people are essential to the future of our city. Indigenous residents are a growing share of our workforce and are dynamic entrepreneurs and cultural leaders. Yet, Thunder Bay has a reputation for racism and discrimination. How will you help address issues of systemic racism and discrimination so that Indigenous people feel safe and welcome in Thunder Bay?
I really get offended when somebody says Thunder Bay is a racist city. We cannot generalize and call every citizen of our city a racist. It's not fair, and I don't think that we are a racist city. There's every city has people with problems. They have mental problems, they have social skills problems, and when those problems manifest themselves into racism, we can't all be colored with that bush. And it really offends me to think that anybody here is a racist, and I just won't accept that fact. I think we have some work to do in that effect, and systemic racism is a problem. It's from learned behavior, and I think the police are dealing with it. Systemic racism means that they bring old baggage with them, and that's how they deal with situations from the last situation they were in and the situation before that, and they kind of look at a group of people in the same way. But I think that is really changing. With the homeless situation in Thunder Bay, you know, I don't hear any complaints about the way the police are handling the people that are living in the tents in our city. I think that they're doing a really great job, and we have to help them more. Apparently, we have 43,000 First Nation people living in Thunder Bay now, and we need more First Nations people on our police force. And again, if the province is going to be mandating what our police force does on the police board, they should be kicking in some dollars. The citizens of Thunder Bay really cannot afford to keep paying for policing in Thunder Bay because it's costing us way too much money. Maybe the First Nations, Nan, Matawa, the federal government, because this is part of their mandate as well, can kick in to help our police force deal with some of the issues in our city.
Thank you. All right, Saeed. Number 6, zoning has become a hot-button topic as the soaring cost of housing has highlighted the impact city planners have on the availability of affordable homes for city residents. Please describe one aspect of the recent zoning bylaw change that you support and one area of zoning that you feel that needs to be changed.
Thank you. So to answer this question, the zoning bylaws is changing, and we definitely have, we come up with a new law so that it works for everybody. It works for the seniors, for the young population, and also for businesses and all that. So one zoning bylaw that I support, that it just came out, that increasing the density on location and also the auxiliary housing like garages and backyard homes. And I feel like that could be helpful for a lot of residents in Thunder Bay. And another zoning that I feel like could be improved, I am from Northwood, but Parkdale is close to our ward. And there are a lot of houses are being built in that area. It's not going to affect us today, but we already having issues with flood in Northwood. But in the future, that might affect us. So that could have been better. And it's not too late. We can still change some bylaws in that area because when it floods, that's going to affect because there are a lot of houses are being built in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Chris. Thunder Bay has an extremely large footprint, which drives up infrastructure costs. We service an area the size of Montreal without the population or tax base to match. How would you approach plans for new subdivisions and the supply of city's land that is slated for development?
Thank you for the question. One of the ways that I would first like to review the information and all the things with the planning department so that I could fully understand, as well as with the applicants, to fully understand what our service area is in that area. Are we going to have, is there already a lot of connections? Is there room to continue adding services to those areas? Because if there's no room to add services, or it's going to overtax or doing net tax the situation that we have now, tax in terms of sort of the usage and the amount of drain on the current resources, is there going to be enough sewer there to handle this addition of the subdivision? Is there going to be enough water to handle a subdivision? Does it need to have sewer and water? Is it okay? Is it going to be on well water potentially? But is it going to be? But we still need other services. So we need to be able to transport people as well. So one of the things I'd like to do is to further understand all, that we're making sure we're doing things without extending ourselves too far. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves having to spend money extending the services and expanding beyond our means in terms of those areas. On the other side, potentially, we should be looking towards urban infill, but I'm not going to say that I wouldn't support new growth and development. I just think we need to be responsible and not overtax the system that we currently have when it comes to transit, water, sewer. Are we going to have city garbage for them? Or are they going to have the services? How much farther down the road can we extend various services? Or even roads like snow removal, for example, right? So I'd like to basically, I would first of all educate myself on the file, and then I would certainly discuss it accordingly, and that's how I would look at making sure, how it's my way of handling it. That's how I would handle that one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mike. Thunder Bay's roads suffer heavily in our climate. With a mounting infrastructure deficit and taxes continually increasing, how would you tackle the issue of roads and transportation in our community?
Thanks, Richard. I think that sort of first things first, we need to find more money. And the way we find more money is by finding the 27,000 people that don't exist in our census right now. We've got academics coming and telling us that Stats Canada isn't counting everybody. When not everyone is counted, that means that federal and provincial dollars that are associated and funded by populations don't come into city budgets. What that means is that you and I are paying taxes for a population that is unfunded by the other orders of government. That means that we're supporting 20% more people than we're getting funding for. And that intersects every single problem that the city has that it spends money on. And I think that it's certainly the way to free up money for roads and free up money for potholes. I think that when it comes to how we can actually make people feel better about the roads, I think about my new friend Marie that I was talking to on Sheridan Crescent. She's got city trucks in her front yard dealing with a whole bunch of pinhole problems, and no one can find the wherewithal to fix a pothole that she's been dealing with for the last 3 months. It's about communication, I think, more so than it necessarily is about throwing more money at the problem. If you knew that the pothole was going to get fixed at the end of the month, it's a lot more comforting than if you're just sitting there waiting to figure out when your next hubcap's going to fall off by landing in it. So the first thrust of it is to find more money and use that money to spend on everything from soup to nuts. The second part of it is making sure that we've got that communication so that when something needs to be fixed, you know that somebody's on it, and when you have a problem, whether that's roads, whether that's sidewalks, whether that's curbs, you can bring it up and know that it's being dealt with and be comforted by the fact that the city's on top of it.
Thank you, Mike. Dominic. The previous council spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on consultants and preliminary work on a proposed police headquarters and an indoor sports facility that were never built. Would you prioritize or deprioritize these large capital projects, or are there other priorities you believe council should address first?
I can see a need for an indoor sports facility. I think that there's a lot of support for it in the community. The big thing that has faced the community just lately, though, is that the funding from the federal or provincial government, the external funding, has fallen through. So we'll have to address that issue. I don't know how to deal with it at this point. I know that if the city does grow, that it does look like it's going to grow, that certainly we can afford to do that. My concern is that really I think it's difficult when you don't know how much money that you have to play with or to build the unit. But I really think that we need to build a sports facility in the community, but I believe that there are other options than a $50 million one, especially if you have a police station. That's another $100 million at the same time. And you get on top of that, you may end up with a cost overrun. I know the Regional Health Center was also estimated at $93 million, ended up costing $200 million. And then the other thing is that we still might end up with the pinhole leaks and East End flooding. But I think we need to work together to make sure that the building gets built, but we need to be able to afford it.
Thank you, Dominic. All right, so round 2 of questions. Bill? Yeah. There's a concern in the community that property taxes are high and increasing every year. However, surveys show that citizens and businesses are willing to pay current tax rates if they feel like they're getting good return on their tax dollar. What is your plan to ensure that Thunder Bay gets a good return on investment for its taxes?
I think a big portion of our taxes goes to the management in the city of Thunder Bay. I think everybody agrees that we are top-heavy in management. We need more money to be spent on roads, on housing, on social services, and I do not think that we need any more managers. I think that if we get rid of some managers in Thunder Bay, we'll have lots of money to continue on with other programs. Thank you.
All right, Saeed. Business groups have complained that red tape and bureaucracy are a barrier to business. What is your plan to ensure that the city adopts a culture of customer service in its dealing with the public? Sorry, this is question 11.
Question 11? Okay, thank you. All right. So, yes, I truly believe that there's a room for improvement, and for the staff with the city, they need to understand that they're also running some sort of a business. It's a customer service, and when we need help, we need to get that help from the city. And I believe the staff needs more training, and so that they can help the citizens. And also, there could be an online platform that we can build to support the audience. If we have a limited resources, then there are so many things that we can do. There are online text options, online chat options, so that if you have any questions, you go online and you can ask the questions. So definitely another option would be hiring more staff, but then again, that costs us money. But if we want to utilize the staff that we have, in that case, we have to come up with a creative solution. How we can, with a minimum cost, we can have maximum profit. So that's what it is. And in that case, I feel like the awareness we have to build in the staff of the city so that they are more customer oriented. And if a business needs some help, if a citizen needs the help, they contact that, and then we can get the help. And which is very important, is the connection between the citizen and the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris. Many parents struggle to secure spots in childcare facilities, which sometimes prevents a parent from returning to the workforce. Would you endorse an increase in the city's childcare programs, and how would you deal with the cost of raising a child for Thunder Bay parents?
For one, I do endorse the partnerships for childcare. I think that we have some childcare, really good childcare in the city right now, but I think we're a little bit short on supply. If we can find ways to help, whether it be incentives or partnerships or assisting with acquiring funding, maybe lobbying other levels of government to help bring some funding in to expand to these organizations so that we can then offer more more space, more opportunities for children to have childcare. And not just childcare, but children are important. They are our future, right? This is the future, and this is what we're all working for right now, is to help make a better place for them. And they're the ones that are going to be at this table and in those chairs and in our jobs in the future and in our schools. And we need to make sure that there's a place for them to develop. So it's not just a matter of childcare and having somewhere for them to go while the parents are at work, but somewhere they can learn skills and hone skills of dealing with others. My godson had some childcare experience, and of course my nephew was really good at starting to come out of his shell because he had a really good childcare where they were able to work with him and know that he was a little shy and nervous and needed time to grow. Coming out of the pandemic, it was really tough for a lot of the children because they were kind of back into not having that sort of interaction with everybody. So it's important that we not just have childcare, but that we have good childcare. And like anything that we really want to have, we need to invest in it. But it's finding how we can invest in it that's important. And I really would be interested in working with the groups on that for both endorsements for the groups as well as people that are already in a situation. I think that it's very important that we take care of the adults too, because they also are the ones that may need some help. So maybe we need to have childcare that's available beyond 6 o'clock. Right, maybe 8 o'clock. A lot of people work till 8 now. People work till 9. A lot of things closing at 9 after pandemics. So that's another thing too, is we need to not just address the inventory and capacity, but the type of childcare and capacity we have going.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Richard, can you just help me out and tell me which number question you're
13.
going to ask?
Yeah, sure. We're just going down the list
Oh, right
directly
on.
in order.
Amazing.
Yeah, we started at 5, and we're chugging along. So we just did 12, and we're now on 13.
Paying too much attention to your answers, guys.
So, Mike, Thunder Bay is projected to have a labor shortage in the near future, and many businesses complain about getting the skilled labor they need to grow. What is your plan to attract the labor force we need to Thunder Bay?
Yeah, I think first things first, skilled labor moves when jobs move. When there's jobs and growth, and people understand that they can rely on a city that's going to grow and be there to not only be a place where they get to work, but a place where their families live and their children grow. And I think that Thunder Bay has the ability to do a lot of that. It just is slightly more difficult than it is to make a sales pitch to somebody to drive an hour down the 401 instead of flying 2 hours up here. But I don't think it's impossible. And I think the word has gotten out in terms of a lot of young professionals using Thunder Bay as a starting point for a lot of their careers. I certainly see it in the law field. And I think what we've got to do is focus resources on retaining those people and making sure that they're not just coming here as a stepping stone, but that they're coming here to build a life and to build a neighborhood and to build a community and to suffer the same waking up early to snowblow problem that I do. And I think all we've got to do is really reinforce and really let the secret out that Thunder Bay's great, more importantly, Northwood's great, and that there's certainly a lot to offer, whether it's somebody like my partner Vicky, who's just been certified as a welder in the trades, or somebody like me with a white collar who's coming here after finishing their stay at Lakehead University or Confederation College. We've got to be able to get our hooks into those people and convince them that Thunder Bay's a better spot for their life, for their future, and for their well-being than anywhere else on the map. And I know it, and I'm sure all of you know it. We just need to get the best-kept secret out a bit more publicly.
Thank you. Dominic, number 14. Thunder Bay paid for a program and service review, which was conducted by outside consultants in 2020. Can you describe 2 elements of the review that you endorse and articulate why it's important for the future of Thunder Bay?
So some of the review conclusions were to discontinuing the city's involvement with the private child care program, sell Port Arthur Stadium and Jumbo Gardens Community Center, end the lease of the Vale Community Center, close and potentially repurpose Boulevard Lake Beach, reduce services in underutilized areas of Canada Games Complex, reduce Muskeg Express operating hours, close underutilized area of Chippewa, close the Botanical Conservatory, reduce the number of outdoor skating rinks by 8, close both the city-owned golf courses, dissolve City Sisters Committee, and I don't agree with any of those things. I think that it's not the city or the vision of city that I would like to live in, and I think that these things are really nickel and dime things. So I think it's really important that we have a proper vision. I know, like I said, we have to find the ways of finding the money, but I think that this expansion that the city could be facing is a good solution to these problems. And also the previous question I asked, we can actually have a decent place to play soccer, a decent police station, and a decent city that we all would like to live in.
Thank you. All right, last round of questions. As usual, we'll begin with Bill. Number 15, how will you prioritize the demands on city capital spending as varied as waterfront development, downtown revitalization, a new central library, and an indoor sports facility? What kinds of projects should the city be funding, and what should citizens expect in return?
Definitely a library, Richard. We cannot afford capital projects at this time. We have $7 million deficit from last year's budget. We cut projects from last year's budget. Inflation is at 10%. We are going into a recession, and I'm asked how we should spend our money. We have infrastructure failing, the River Street culvert, sinking of the Wayland, and what's next? It's all cost millions of dollars. I will tell you how to save money. We need to reduce management. Thank you.
All right. Said, number 16. Crime and addiction are major interrelated issues in our community. Do you feel like the current model of policing is appropriate for our community, and what, if any, changes would you like to see to our model of first responders?
Thank you, Richard. So I would like to mention one thing. That have you noticed that with the time changes, the criminals, they also change their crimes. We never had any online text crimes before. Now, before the CRA, you know, when we do the tax returns, you always see the text, okay, you got some money coming in your bank. So the reason I'm mentioning this is that the crime has changed. There are a lot of people are doing online crimes, and we have to focus on that as well. The city needs to know that there are a lot of people are texting, using messages, and getting involved, creating their platform online to commit the crimes. So we have to also see where they're coming from, and we have to offer social awareness programs so that everyone knows about this. And everyone knows that if you receive a text, don't answer that text. Everyone should know that. And also, in that the city can take different steps to create awareness programs, social media programs, campaigns, so that everyone's aware. And also, sometimes I think that we need to free up the time of the police, because sometimes if it's not a criminal offense, maybe the social workers or the counselors can go there and deal with those problems. And then we can free up the time of our police department so that they can deal with more dangerous problems and more serious problems. And also we should focus on some hotspots where we see that the crimes are happening, and also we can prevent virtual crimes. We can increase the surveillance where that would be effective and reduce the crimes. And also neighborhood watch programs. We had this, and I know it's on and off in our community, but that helps. Like our community is like a network, and if we can work as a whole team, I think we can solve any issues in Thunder Bay. That's all we need. We have to be aware about these problems. We have to be aware about these crimes, and we need to know what's happening. And the city can play a very active role in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Chris. Many communities on the south side of town feel neglected as the housing stock deteriorates, homelessness is on the rise, and the business community struggles with street-level social issues. What is your plan for revitalizing our most economically depressed neighborhoods?
I believe it starts with morale building. Part of the problem that we have is if people don't have any like morale, you're having a lot of, you see your properties going down, you see streets deteriorating, you see, well, it's hard to pick up sometimes, right? I mean, we've all had some issues over times where we've been in a spot, we may have been between jobs, we may have had issues, maybe we've had to move because things just got kind of rough in the neighborhoods. I think one of the problems that we have is we need to bring back things that make people want to have some pride and work together. Example, when we used to have the block, it was the block or the street awards, well, the awards where they had for the best streets, they'd have like a block party after, because people would clean up their neighborhoods. Much from what I've seen in door knocking, and totally support with what candidate Mar had said with the neighbors. It's already a good community for Northwood, but there's still some things that we could make even better, because in some parts of Northwood, because the boundaries are really big for Northwood. So Northwood borders literally in the heart, as I said, on all the different areas from the Harbor Expressway, Thunder Bay Expressway, to part of Balmoral and part of Arthur Street. So there's a huge different demographic all the way through Northwood, and I think it's important that People have a reason to feel pride and feel confident. We need to support those people. We need to, it's not just always through money. Sometimes it's just through support, helping them get the programs, showing up as a representative or with people from MIN and being there when things happen and be like, hey guys, let's get this together. We got you, you know? I think of, you know, we had, when the floods happened back in, oh geez, can't even think of the year now. 16, 12, there's a few. And I remember there's,
Which flood?
yeah, there's the one where, you know, the big station backed up and, you know, there's people in this room that are in attendance where I remember seeing them come in and they came in and they were right there with the people and they're helping and doing things, and that's important. We need to just, it's not just being with the people, we need to support the people, we need to be there for you, we need to not just listen, but maybe actually be there and feel with you, and let's try to build some morale again and get people happy and people positive. Let's have an event in Thornlow Park.
All right, thanks, Chris. Mike,
I can predict the question now. Thank you.
glad you caught on. As ecological and health concerns for our population mount and seniors become Thunder Bay's largest demographic, walkability has become a top concern for many. Walkable neighborhoods support local business, decrease isolation and loneliness, encourage healthier lifestyles, and reduce our car dependence. Please describe how you intend to make Thunder Bay a more walkable, close-knit community.
Honestly, I think Northwood's as walkable as it needs to be, and talking about how I'm going to make Thunder Bay more walkable as your prospective Northwood councillors feels like I'm rearranging the furniture while the house is on fire. People will be able to go out and walk and enjoy our walking trails if they know that their basements aren't going to get flooded. People can understand how they're going to enjoy our trails and our services if they know that they don't have to worry about overland water not going in the right culvert. Northwood is in pain and Northwood is suffering and no one's paying attention. And I'm not going to sit here talking to you about walking trails when literally the house feels like it's on fire. I think that, you know, notionally we should have a predictable ability so that I can know when my Chihuahua can walk through the trails and the snow is going to get plowed. But I can't seriously sit here in front of all of you who've taken time out of your night to have a serious conversation about whether or not Northwood is going to have more trails. I think we need to focus on finding new dollars instead of fighting over pennies and nickels. And I think that I'm able to hit the ground running with not starting my term doing a lot of learning, but doing a lot of doing. I'm the guy that politicians used to call in to solve complex problems for them, and I'm here to be that guy for each and every one of you. And I want to be your advocate. I want to be the guy who's there that you can call, that you know is going to make the right email happen, make the right phone call happen, and deliver results no matter what it is. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you. All right, Dominic. Last question for the candidates tonight. Racism and discrimination hurt us all. Reports such as the OIPRD report highlight how Thunder Bay needs to do more to make our city a truly safe and inclusive space for all. How will you demonstrate the city's commitment to reconciliation and the decolonization of public services?
Okay, so earlier this evening, there were doubts whether racism actually exists. I believe that this is a racist city.
Hear, hear.
And that there is a big problem with it. So the first thing we have to do is acknowledge that there is a problem here and to start to deal with it. It's not going to be an easy thing to do because like I say, a lot of people don't even realize it exists. But racism cannot be tolerated. It starts with our own behaviors. If the leaders of the community are racist, then they're setting the wrong example for the rest of the community. I believe that there are things that we can do, and one of the beautiful things that we have in this city is the Folklore Festival, where our differences are celebrated rather than condemned. And I think that we need to continue on those things. I'm old enough to remember the times when Italians were considered wops, and they had to deal with it. Now that had to come a long ways. That doesn't even exist today. But I mean, it's going to be a long ways before the racism that we have in this city is destroyed and that we're all treated as equals. So I really do look forward to that time, but we have to work hard at it. And first of all, we'll never get there if we don't realize that it exists.
Thank you. All right, well, I'd like to thank all the Northwood candidates for coming out and for everyone for attending tonight. We'll take a short break where you're welcome to engage with them in the main hallway, and then we'll jump into the McKellar Ward Q&A in about 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.